This is a lab podcast using the ear models right here, and these will be on the final lab test. So the parts of the ear are listed on page 51 in your lab pack. And so I'm going to go over these parts and show you where they are on these models so that you can pass that lab test. All right, so now the ear has three general areas. And so this outer area is called the outer ear. On a side view, this would be the outer ear out here, and then the auditory canal coming down, and then the tympanic membrane, which is right here. This plastic represents the tympanic membrane right there, okay? And so that is all this area. That's the outer ear. The middle ear has three bones in it. And so here are the bones. This first part, this sort of rounded and has a handle, that's the malleus bone, okay? And then this one that goes down and then has sort of like an extension, a pointed extension, that's gonna be the incus bone, common name, anvil. And then the third bone is attached right here. And so this should look like a stirrup, or its real name is called the stapes, right, okay? So those are the three bones for the middle ear. And then the middle ear also has a tube that will drain it right here, this tube going down, and that's called the eustachian tube. And it has nothing to do with hearing. It actually has pseudostratified columnar ET cells with goblin in it, as does the rest of the middle ear. And it produces some mucus. And what it does is basically air comes down this tube and goes up the tube, and it can equalize the pressure between the bones and this area when you swallow, right? So that's the eustachian tube, nothing to do with hearing. All right, now the inner ear is right here, this area right here. And so the inner ear, and this is just a blood vessel. All right, and all the bone that these structures are in here would be the temporal bone. Now these are the bones for the inner ear, and so there's three of them. So down here, it's sort of hard to see where the stapes attaches. All this area down here, in here, all this is the vestibular bone, our vestibule bone right here. And then these are the semicircular canals on top, okay, three of them. And then here is the one that looks like a snail shell called the cochlea bone. And then sitting on top of the cochlea right here, this is the cranial nerve number 8, the auditory nerve, or vestibulocochlear nerve right here. So that sits in like that, okay? And so in the inside of all these is simple QBT cells in the inside, and they make a liquid that's going to go back and forth in the inside here that helps you balance. And the liquid's name is called perilymph when you're young, and when you get older it gets thicker and full of calcium stones, and it's called endolymph, okay? So that's the inner area of the ear right there. So with those three bones, and then the nerve comes in here, and it will pick up vibrations from these bones when you're actually hearing, and the vibrations of these bones creates electricity, and it'll go back up to the temporal lobe, and it will be interpreted in terms of what you're hearing and store it in the temporal lobe, also in the cerebrum. So those are the areas with the specific bones. And then if you look out here on the outer ear real quick, this outer ear area right here is called the pinna, okay? All this area is called the pinna. The inside edge of skin and cartilage right in here, this is called the helix. And down here, this would be the lobule, like your little ear lobe down here, lobule right there. And so all of this is covered with stratified squamous ET, the outer ear, as well as the external auditory canal. And so the pinna is going to make the sound waves, sort of like a megaphone, gather them, and then make the sound waves go down the external auditory canal right here. And then it will make the membrane vibrate. And when this vibrates, the tympanic membrane vibrates, then all these bones, the middle ear bones, are going to vibrate, and then these bones vibrate, and then that creates the electricity that's going to go back up to the temporal area of the cerebrum, and that's going to interpret what you're hearing and store it. So stratified squamous, again, all in the outer ear and down the external auditory canal right here. And then the tympanic membrane is actually going to be made out of stratum corneum and stratum granulosum of thin skin. And then it's got blood vessels in there. You can see those, the little red things. And so that's Lucy T with fenestrated capillaries that will be feeding this tissue that's going to vibrate right there. So one more time, the middle ear bones, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. And these are the three smallest bones in the human body. And the other name for these three smallest bones are called auditory ossicles. So there you go. So that's everything you need to know about the ear.